dear students, I hope you have enjoyed my previous lecture. In the first part, I have told you the basics of our immune system. So, I am continuing that part, and with this today's lecture, our first understanding of the immune system will be in depth. So, let me start. So, in our previous lecture, we have learned about the immunity. We have also seen our immune system is very complex. I also have mentioned that we have three level of immune defense, and I also have mentioned the physical and physiological barrier, and I also have mentioned the innate immune system. I hope you can recall the previous 30-minute lecture. Now, on today on this lecture, I am going to tell you the adaptive immune system. I have categorized the adaptive immune system in this manner. So, I will tell you first what is adaptive immunity. See, adaptive immunity actually working because of the two different kinds of cell, B cells and T cells, and because of the presence of B cells and T cells, we are getting these kinds of immunity, humoral or cell mediated immunity. I will tell you more what are the difference between the innate and adaptive immune system and the coordination of the various kinds of the immune cells. So, this is the agenda of the day, and we are going to learn all those things. So, before going to the depth, let me just recap. In my previous lecture, I have told you that we have three levels of immune system, three levels of defense, that is physical, physiological, innate and adaptive, and we have told you that if a pathogen, if a bacteria, virus or anything, if it may enter in your body, first this will come to the picture. I have discussed in a very detail with you that how your physical or physiological barriers actually stopping. If they are able to cross this, if those microbes are able to cross these barriers, then what will happen? This innate immune system will be come to the picture and they will kill the viruses. But if they are also getting failed, in that scenario our adaptive immune system will be come to the picture. So, yeah, just a second, let me take a very good color. Yeah. So, let me tell you about the in detail about the adaptive immune system. So, what is adaptive immune system? So, adaptive immune system is composed of the specialized systematic cells and processes that eliminate pathogens to prevent their growth. It is a very systematic process, because this is the third level. So, you have to understand this will be very advanced level of your defense system, okay, and it is highly specific to each pathogen. It is highly specific to each pathogen the body has encountered. SARS-CoV-2, coronavirus. You might have heard that lots of scientists or lots of research paper they have mentioned that specific type of antibodies is actually generated in our body when coronavirus actually entering in our body. So, that antibody will be specific, okay. For other viruses it will not might be work in a proper manner, because it is a specific. If I tell you more, this adaptive immune system creates the immunological memory after an initial response to the specific pathogen and leads to an enhanced response to the future encountered with that pathogen. So, in our country there is a one disease called chicken pox. I have all of you have heard and many of you have encountered in your life. So, have you ever wondered that chicken pox jo hai, it will never happen again and again in your life. If your body encountered with this virus for a while, what will happen? Your antibody will be generated, and again your body will not get affected by the same virus, okay, because of this memory. This type of or this third level of defense, that is adaptive immunity, it actually creating some memory cell. I will tell you more how they are actually creating the memory. So, they are actually saving the information, that is why your body will be not again get affected, and antibodies are a critical part of the adaptive immune system, and the adaptive immune system can provide long lasting protection, sometimes for the person's entire life. What I was actually mentioning about your that pox, for your whole life it will be able to save yourself from the viruses. So, that is why we have to train our body with adaptive immune system. In our previous lecture at the beginning I have told 99.99% viruses are actually yet to be discovered. Okay. So, you have to train your body so that you have more and more number of B cells and T cells. What are those things? Let me tell you. So, adaptive immunity can provide long lasting protection and sometimes for the person's whole life, and cells that carry the adaptive immune system response are white blood cells known as the B cells and T cells. B cells and T cells. I will tell you more what are B cells and T cells, how they are originating, how they are working, and how they are saving your body. So, B cells, it is generated from the bone marrow. See, in your upcoming time, you as a student, you will lots of time you will be getting confused between B cells and T cells. So, what is the solution? B for bone, B for B cells. ऐसे याद रखना इस चीज़ को. So, B cells actually originate from the bone marrow, and T cells are originating from the it is also bone marrow, but maturation is happening in the bone marrow. Here the maturation is happening in the thymus, T thymus. Okay, you should remember in such a manner. Okay, B cells are actually both are things are originating in the bone marrow, but T cells maturation is happening in the thymus. Okay, so T for T cell, T for thymus. Yes, you should remember. They are very short lived and they are very long lived, fairly and mobile stationary, and they are highly mobile, and complement receptor is actually happening here, but here is no any complement receptor. You have the surface immunoglobulins, there is no Ig, there is no any surface immunoglobulins, and antibody synthesis actually possible here, and here is no antibody synthesis. Okay. For T cells there is no any antibody synthesis. A for antibody, B for B cells, A B ऐसे याद रखना. Okay, you will be confused between B cells, T cells, antibody, non-antibody. So, A for antibody and B for B cells. So, B cells are actually generating or originating the antibody. Because of the antibody, our this adaptive immune system is working. And yes, where it is actually affecting? Effector is the humoral immunity, and here it is affecting in the cellular or both humoral. Let me tell you more the various kinds of lymphocytes, because all are white blood cell, right. So, B cells and T cells are actually various types. There are lots of types of T cells actually available. What are the types? Like helper T cells, cytotoxic T cells, regulatory T cells. But B cells, these are only B cells, because they will be only generate the antibodies. Okay. So, antigen on the pathogen, where actually they are working, that is antigen recognition, how they are actually recognizing. So, antigen on the pathogen or soluble antigen, and for this case, for helper T cells, what will happen? The antigens present in the professional APC. Professional APC means antigen presenting cell. I will tell you more in the lecture of MHC how antigen presenting cells are actually working. And in this case, when this antigen presenting cell will present, in that case, after that the antigen presented by infected or malignant cells, and here no antigen recognition function, because it has a different work. So, what is the function? Let me tell you one by one. So, B cells actually neutralize the pathogen, phagocytosis will happen, and complement activation will be happen. It will bind. I will show one video also in my next lecture. It will if one virus actually entering, these B cells antibody it will surround, it will go and surround all the viruses. And in this case, macrophage and activation of B cells and T cells, inflammation will happen, and in this cytotoxic T cells it will eliminate the infected malignant cells. And regulatory, they are actually working as the regulate, or that is increase or suppress the immunization activity, because there are lots of cells are present in our body. These are our cells, these are our own cells. So, it should not be get destroyed by our own immune system. So, that is why regulatory T cells are also important. Now, let me tell you more. So, B cells, I told you, they will produce the antibody to activate other cells, and we have memory B cells. Yes, memory, you should always remember the word memory, because I have told you that for this immune system you will be getting long immunity, you will be getting long immunity. Why? Because of the memory B cells. Okay, they will remember enemies and produce these antibodies, and these memory B cells, the stem cells, can remember the enemies and produce the antibody, and the virgin B cells, they produce the antibody by standby mode. Okay, standby mode. In some cases, these cells are actually not able to working. What will happen? In that case, this virgin T cells will come to the picture. Now, let me tell you about the T cells. So, here are three variants of type: helper, cytotoxic, and regulatory. But yes, within helper there is something called memory, and there is virgin, and also memory helper T stem cell. So, let me tell you one by one. So, there T cells will communicate and kill activate other cells. Memory T cells will communicate and remember, yes, and virgin T cell they will be standby mode. See, where you will be get the word virgin, where you will be get the word virgin, you should remember the standby. If our other cells are not able to working, what will happen? At that case, it will be virgin T cell in the standby mode, they will go and they will do their work. If it is cytotoxic, it will kill. If it is helper, then it will help the antigen presenting cell to the cytotoxic cell. Okay, regulatory cell will do their regulation activity, and the memory cells they will remember and communicate with their enemy, and killer T cells very important, they will kill. Killer T cells will kill the infected organism, okay, in infected cell, and virgin cells they will be in the standby mode. If they are not able to work, they will come to the picture. Memory killer T cells they will remember, okay, they will remember the enemy, that is bacteria or virus, for a long period of time. If you again got infected by the same bacteria or virus, then it will able to do its work, it will able to kill, you will not get any diseases. Memory killer T stem cells again they actually remember. So, after telling you in detail about the B cells and T cells, what they are doing and how they are originating some immune responses. So, B cells are actually generating humoral immunity, humoral, and T cells are actually generating cell mediated immunity, cell. You should keep these things in your mind, humoral and cell, because sometimes in examination you will be getting the difference between humoral immunity and cell mediated immunity. So, B cells they are releases antibodies and assist the activation of the T cells. Okay. When lots of antibodies are actually generated and the bacteria or virus or the pathogen is actually surrounded by the antibodies, then T cells will be get activated and the killer T cells or cytotoxic T cells it will go and destroy. And in this case you should remember the T helper. In many of the research paper, no? In many of the research paper people actually write CD4 plus TH means helper T cell. CD4, where you will be getting the word CD4, immediately you should try to understand that you are actually talking about the T helper cells, and CD8 cytotoxic T cells or gamma del T cells. Regulatory, their work is the suppression. Okay. Here immunoglobulin or antibodies are actually generated, but in this case there is no any immunity antibody. Let me tell more about the T cells, whatever I was discussing, you know, here this T cells. Let me tell more about these T cells. So, it actually activate and regulate the B and T cells, that is a helper, and the cytotoxic T cells will virus infected and tumor cells, and actually cytotoxic means it will be harmful for the cell, which cell actually get toxicated, which cell actually get infected by microbes. So, if a body cell get infected by microbes, then it will come to the picture, it will destroy and kill it. And gamma delta T cells, it is a bridge between the innate and adaptive immune system. For example, like phagocytosis, and regulatory suppressor T cells they actually return the functioning of the immune system to the normal operation after infection, and they also prevent the autoimmunity. Okay. And CD4 or T helper cells they actually helping to the for antigen presenting cell. So, after learning that how our B cells or T cells actually working and they are generating some humoral and cell mediated immunity, let me tell you what are the differences between these two types. So, all of you are aware this humoral immunity actually it is originated by the production of the B lymphocytes or B cell antibody, it is come to the picture. And for this case cell mediated immunity it is actually possible or it is done by the involvement of the T helper cell T cells. Okay. So, cell type I have mentioned the B lymphocytes, and this case it is the T lymphocytes. Mode of action, antibodies travel through the blood circulation, and here direct cells to cell contact or secret the cytokines. See, cytokines again come to the picture, very important, because of the presence of cytokine our lots of cells they get to alert, yes we have to do some work. Okay. So, for antibody detection it is done by the B cells or this kind of cells, and here it is done by the receptor located into the that is cell surfaces. Okay. You should remember this word as a antigen. Okay. If any antigen is actually presenting, so antibody will go there and it will surround that particular antigen, and in this case the receptor whatever located, it will go and it will actually work. For example, antigen presenting cell, MHC. I will tell you more about MHC in my upcoming lecture. So, first it will take, it will engulf, and it will try to destroy, and it will present into the surfaces, so that other cells can activate it, and if a huge number of virus or bacteria is present, anti-immune system get alerted and they can destroy. And what is the mechanism? Antibody mediated, and it is the cell mediated. That is why you call it as a cell mediated immunity. Any antibody production is happening in this case? Answer is yes. B cells are actually producing antibody, A, B. A for antibody, B for B cells. You should remember in this manner. And here for cell mediated immunity, there is no any antibody production. What is the purpose? Purpose is the primary defense against the extracellular pathogens, and here primary defense against the intercellular pathogens. Immune surveillance, yes, that does not provide, but yes, they provide the immune surveillance. Now, what is the meaning of the word called surveillance? Surveillance means nigrani in Hindi. For example, let me correlate this concept with our defense or law enforcement agencies work. Have you heard about the RAW, Research and Analysis Wing? I hope many of you have heard, because we have seen lots of movies, AKtU, Tiger, and lots of movies you have seen. Have you ever heard about the word called IB? Intelligence Bureau. So, to maintain the law and order in our country, our government in our India, we have RAW, we have IB, and to maintain the proper working of our human body, we have the cell mediated immunity called T cells, and they are actually doing surveillance in our entire body. They are doing surveillance, they are trying to identify if any virus is present or not, if any bacteria is present or not. If any virus or bacteria is present, then we have to take some action to kill those bacterial viruses, otherwise our body will be get infected by those viruses, we will be getting diseases. That is why surveillance very important. So, let me tell you more. So, immunity against cancer, yes, very important. Nowadays, to solve the disease of cancer, scientists are actually using monoclonal antibodies, because cancer, the disease cancer, if you want to solve this disease, you can if you enhance our immune system, the cancer disease will be able to solve. So, for humoral immunity, since it cannot eliminate the tumor cells, so they cannot develop any kinds of immunity against cancer, but yes, in this case it is possible. So, those peoples having a very good adaptive immunity, you will be observing they are not actually usually get affected by the cancer. So, that is why it is important. Now, if I tell you more in a pictorial diagram about the differences. So, let me tell you in 4 different that is a paradigm, that is microbes, response of the lymphocytes, effector mechanism, and how they are functioning. For example, one extracellular microbe is actually entering. So, what will happen? Antibody will be go there. See, these are the antibody, this Y shape, these Y shapes are actually antibody. This antibody will be go there, and antibody will bind and block the infections and eliminate and the extracellular microbes. Body में कभी भी in your body anytime any microbes may enter. So, your these B cells antibody will be go there and it will be surrounded. This microorganism will be surrounded by the B cells, they are antibodies. But in this case, cell mediated immunity, it is a little different. How? So, first phagocytosis of the microbes in the macrophage, and helper the T lymphocytes, they will present, and in other kinds of way the intercellular microbe, that is virus actually replicated within the infected cell, cytotoxic lymphocytes, it will come to the picture, and here some responses will be happen. You can see some bind, this is the some binding actually is happening. Because of the binding, it will activate the macrophage to kill the phagocyted the microbes, and in this case kill infected cells and eliminate the reservoir system. So, in this case for humoral immunity, where we have seen the microorganism is surrounded by the antibodies, in this case it will not surrounded by, it will engulf. If any mismatch actually happening, it will directly kill it. That is why the killer T cells are so much popular. Okay. I think with this picture you are very much clear about how they are working. I have another picture if you want to know more. I have another picture. So, let me tell you. Yeah. So, at first one you can see this is the receptor and this is our B cell and this is the pathogen. For example, this pathogen actually it was attached with the receptor, and in second case it will it will be getting activated B cells, plasma cells, and lots of antibodies will be generated, and from the memory cells antibodies will be come to the picture, in this case in humoral immunity. And for cell mediated immunity, if any antigen is present, this is the antigen, or it is the this cell, this is actually calling as the antigen presenting cell. Okay. So, let me write APC, antigen presenting cell. It is actually presenting this microorganism, bacteria, virus, and T cells actually recognizing. Okay, T cells actually it is actually recognizing this cell, and then attack will be happen. T cells attacking to the infected cell, it actually attacking, and it will create some memory. It will create a memory cell, and through that you are getting a long term immunity. So, this is how these things are actually working. I hope you was very much clear after listening my this lecture, that how our 3 levels of immune systems are actually working. Let me just recap one by one. So, for our physiological barrier, you have non-human cells, we call it as which is actually coming under the skin, mucous membrane or cilia and other things. So, these are like epithelial cells, endothelial cells, or your fibroblast. We also have some, in case of our innate immunity, what we have seen, we have various kinds of that is cells like monocytes, macrophages, dendritic cells, neutrophil and mast cell, NK means natural killer cell, and eosinophil. You should never forget these names: macrophage or monocytes, dendritic cells, neutrophils, mast cells, natural killer cell, or eosinophil. Okay, they will be giving you the innate immunity. Okay. So, macrophage will be do the phagocytosis. This both the things are actually both 3 things are actually doing phagocytosis, and there are other works are there like deregulation, release of the inflammatory mediation. Natural killer cell will be do some killing activity, some cytotoxic activity, and eosinophil will do the deregulation and cytotoxic activity. This is how our innate immune system actually working. And lastly, we have also learned about the adaptive immune system. In adaptive immune system, what you have seen? You have seen the T cells and B cells. T cells are actually that is doing some cytotoxic activity. It is assisting the activation of the B cells, and B cells actually producing the antibodies. So, this is how our entire work is actually working. What are the differences? What are the differences between the innate and adaptive immune system? Because in various books they have not given so much emphasis on our physiological barrier. They are directly mentioned that the innate immunity or adaptive immunity. What are the differences between? So, innate immunity you will be getting very fast. If any bacteria or virus may enter into your body, very fast you will be getting the response 0 to 12 hours. But for this case it will take a long time. Coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, all of you have heard that for SARS-CoV-2 it is taking 7 to 14 days to generate the antibodies. Why? Because antibodies are produced by what? B lymphocytes. B cells से तो बनाते, B cells are actually producing the antibodies. So, that is why innate immune system you will be getting a response very quick, and in this case you will be getting it will take a long time for the response. First B lymphocytes will go and see the plasma cell will become it will generate the antibodies. So, it will take a long time, and also for T cells are also it will present, then it will recognize, and then effector T cells will go, it will work. So, it will take a long time, for minimum 0 to 7 days. Here is a very beautiful picture of our all the various kinds of cell. So, this is hematopoietic stem cells. So, how they are originated and how they are differentiated. So, innate immune system. So, whatever the cells I have mentioned you, basophil, eosinophil, neutrophil, mast cell, natural killer cell, here are the pictures. You can take one screenshot so that you can recall all those picture for a long period of time, because I can understand my dear students, when I was also a student I was also not able to remember all the various kinds of cells. So, I used to draw some pictures like this or take some print out of these pictures and I used to put on my wall. So, I think we have covered in a detailed manner how our both the immune systems actually working, both the adaptive and immune system actually working. So, here is another picture, pathogens are coming, your cells are getting infected. So, innate immune system actually come to the picture, it is trying to kill, but if it is not able to stop this activity, your adaptive immune system or delayed time actually coming, delayed time or delayed response immune system coming. Here you can see B cells or T cells actually coming and it is actually destroying. Okay. So, in a nutshell, if I tell you more in detail, so here I have another nice diagram. So, it is very complex, it is looking so complex, right, but you have no need to worry, this is very simple. So, for 0 to 4 hours, what will happen? Some engulfment will be done. If a pathogen is present, dendritic cell will be doing some engulfment. From 4 to 95 hours, some inflammation will happen, cytokine and other things will be originated, and after that for a long time various kinds of T cells, B cells, they will come to the picture, they will generate the antibodies and they will do their work. I hope after listening all the things, when again I am bringing to you this complex picture, it is very much clear to you, hai na? I hope these words where I have started my lecture, it is now very much clear to you all how they are actually that is associated with each other, and how various T cells and B cells, sorry, how various T cells or B cells are actually associated, how they are working. So, I hope it is giving too much emphasis to you for understanding. Here I have mentioned their regulation. So, with this I will end up our today's lecture, and today we have learned the adaptive immunity, B cells and T cells, what are the difference between humoral and cell mediated immunity, the difference between the both kinds of immunity, and how the cells are actually coordinated. I hope you are very much happy right now after listening the 2 lectures, and your understanding, what I believe it will be so much depth than the previous. Because my dear students, I have seen in my experience, I have found that there are, if you tell about the books or YouTube, there is no any proper lectures as available which actually summarize the things in a very systematic manner. That is why I have tried to design the lecture in such a manner, so that you remember this concept for whole life. So, thank you all of you, thank you for joining today's lecture. I hope it has given too much, it has stimulated too much you to learn the immunity in a very nice manner. Thank you all of you, we shall meet in our next lecture. God bless you all, best of luck.